Good morning. Welcome to today's live. I'm in Merida right now, or just outside of it in Mexico. And we're in Aquarius season. I think we're on step 10. I'll have to look. If you're in the 28-day life reset, please put it in the comments. Let me know how you're doing. We've got lots of people going through the program right now, and it's the first time we've ever done it together with people from all around the world. And it's cool to see everybody's journaling. Yes, we're on step 10, manifest day. So why is step 10 a manifest day? Well, it's what your heart wants and it's protecting that. So 1 is your heart, 0 is the protector. I'm looking to sell my home in Alberta. Where do I think you should go? I mean, I think Mexico is a great place to be, but I can't give that kind of recommendation. Pretty view, yeah. It's really nice out here, but cold. There's a cold front in, lots of wind. Love doing it together and loving the new format. That's awesome. Thanks, Katie. What have been your biggest takeaways from the 28-day? And what do you want to see more of? We're going to also start to update the no, I would not go to Bali. Many reasons, but there's not a good feeling there. I would also tune into the feeling, like even places like Costa Rica technically sound really nice, but the feeling that I get when I think about a place like that is not good. So we actually do this exercise in the 28-day life reset, and it's about tuning in and using your body as a compass. And when you ask yourself certain questions, your body has a response, and that response might be a sway, moving forwards or backwards, left or right. It may be where you actually move in a circle, or it may be where you have some sort of tension, relaxation, buzzing, tingling, or flow through your body when you ask that question. So when you become more in tune with your body will tell you the answer. Your brain has all these inputs and all these biases and all this information that it's trying to use to make decisions. And your brain is always arguing one way or the other. It's like, you should go there because of this. No, you should do it because of this. But I heard Sally say, and I read an article about this, and your heart says, or your intuition is really more of a guide. It's more of a feeling. It's more of a, this feels like the right direction to go. Somebody's saying that they lived in Bali and that they agree with me. Okay, good. Watching from Ireland. I think the places that I would not want to be is Canada, United States, New Zealand potentially is a no as well, although it's one of the places that I would have liked to go. Australia is up in the air. Costa Rica is a no. What other options are there? Hi, watching from Ireland. Would you explain what exactly it is you do? Well, we teach people how to heal their bodies, but I think it's actually more than that. We teach people to reconnect with themselves and transform their life. Because once you heal your body, your emotions, your thoughts, your perceptions, your relationships, your work, your career, everything has to catch up to it. You can't just focus on one area and have the rest not change. How do you feel about Japan? Oh, I haven't actually thought about that. Germany, probably a no. You know what? In Germany and Netherlands, like, they don't put up with anything. So no matter what changes are coming, people are not putting up with it there. But I wouldn't want to be there right now. Mexico right now, I don't know if I guess. It's really a place that people are building and people are going to. And it's growing. It's very fertile here right now. That's the feeling. That's the feeling that I get. India. Yeah, I haven't thought about Japan, India. I haven't really tuned into a lot of those places. It's not really, never really been on my radar that much. Astrocartology, or cartography, yes. Astrocartography, for those of you who don't know, it's the astrology for you based on where you are in the world. So I don't know a lot about it, but you can pull your chart. If you go to astro.com, you can type in your birth date and your birth information, and then you can go to the travel or astro travel or astro cartography section. And what it does is it tells you where certain planets line up for you in an area. And what that's really saying is there's a magnifying glass of energy and a specific energy that you will receive when you go there. For me, as an example, let's try. Right now I'm in Mexico, and I think it goes through, I'm not sure what line it actually goes through. Hold on. So let me see if I can pull this up for you guys. Astro.com. Type in your name. Let me show you what it looks like. Oh yeah, so if you go onto the site, let me just turn my camera around. Okay. Oh, it's all backwards. Oh no. Okay. I'm gonna have to bring my camera over here, or my computer over here. Here we go. So when you go to, there we go, astro.com, scroll down to the bottom, you're going to see AstroClick Travel. Find the best destination for your holiday. And when you click on it, it has all these lines. Those lines represent planets. And if you zoom in on one of them, it actually shows you an area of the world and which astrology aspects affect you. So I'm going to go into Mexico and I'll show you what it looks like. And I am not an expert at this, just by the way. Okay. You know what's really funny? I chose to sit on a pillow that they have at this place we're staying at. And I'm sitting on it. I have shorts on, but I can feel the chemicals in it. And my lips are getting dry. That's one of the first things that I notice. Like if you go and stay somewhere, you will experience chemicals in that environment, most likely, in the cleaning products and the detergents or whatever. So I'm gonna choose to actually sit on the hard floor because that's not good. You don't want chemicals near your body. Anything that touches your hands or your feet or your skin is absorbed into the blood within minutes. And what I believe happens is there's two things. One, you use water, and that water comes in and cleans out all of those chemicals. So it dehydrates you. And two, I believe that there's a fear response. Your body actually contracts in the internal layers of fascia. And that's why the skin gets dry. So I'm going to move that pillow. Whew. So we actually bring our own bed sheets and towels and pillows and stuff if we can. And ideally, you can bring like laundry magnets if you need to do laundry wherever you go. They're really cheap. And you basically buy them once and you can bring them everywhere. They're small. Okay. So let's go back here. Let's get back on track. So Central America, where are we? South America. North America, okay. So I'm gonna look around on this map. It's not exactly easy to navigate on here. There's Costa Rica. Okay. So you can pick your region, and then I want you to zoom in on it. Okay. Cancun. Found it. All right, so for Cancun, it says, so if you look at the map, you see these lines, they all represent different planets. My Cancun is right there. So it's between two lines, but if I zoom in, I'll be able to get a bit of a better grasp of exactly what aspects are there. Zoom in. And I want you to do this with me. Wherever you're living right now, I want you to pull up your astrocartography. So I'm going to click on Cancun. And the thing that I like about it is it pulls up like a little summary of what's going on in that area so that you can see. So for me, it says it's crossing Chiron and moon nodes. So hidden areas of your inner being are being activated in this place. Memories of a distant past resurface. Limitations and suppressed wounds from the past become real again. The central theme to your existence is to free yourself from these. And you turn to people who claim to offer healing. You come in contact with unusual people, meet outsiders, and people with healing abilities. These are often people with charismatic appeal, specializing in one field. Here, you will find release from an old pain, and this becomes a turning point in your life. Perhaps you would like to be a healer yourself. That's funny. Chiron and moon nodes are a good introduction to the different techniques and methods of alternative healing. You will discover teachers prepared to share their knowledge and help you find and use your healing powers. So that's what I get when I'm in Cancun. Now, it'll be different for everybody. So let me see if it changes at all in Merida. And I actually believe wherever you travel around the world, there's a vibration in the earth, and all the trees, the water, the animals, they're all moving in sync to a circadian rhythm and Schumann resonance. And when you go there, you're picking up on all of that, and it changes you. That's why if you change your environment drastically by moving or traveling somewhere, you experience things very differently. So I am a firm believer of traveling and moving to different places and experiencing different energies, because it's bringing you to that frequency for a period of time so you can learn, you can grow. Like if you go to a chakra of the earth, for example, Mount Shasta, which is the root chakra, that brings you into the root. And so you spend, let's say, 5 days there. You're spending 5 days beating at the drum or beating at the rhythm of that space. And that's going to teach you something. Has anybody else felt that? When you travel, it changes you. You also meet the people there, and the people teach you things. The thing is, we now have homes and we have belongings. It's very hard and difficult to move. But I've only got a few pairs of shorts, few pairs of shirts. I've got my, basic technology that I need in order to function, and I can go anywhere. Okay. What site is this? Astro.com. You can do it on other sites too. I'm sure there's ones that are better. I haven't done too much research into it. Mexico. Yeah, Mexico, especially Cancun, is very fertile, but I think it's going to become like Vegas in the next decade. So we're actually moving away from Cancun specifically, but we're going to stay in Mexico. We're still going to have a place around here. Where is your favorite place to go? Put it in the comments. Thank you for that. I didn't know you can do that on there. Yes. There's also an interesting feature in the Pattern app. If you have the Pattern, it's an astrology app that you can download for your phone. That has a feature where you can go in time and you can go back to a time in your life. It's called time travel. And you can go back and you can look at what you were experiencing at a certain time in your life energetically. You can also go in the future, which, I don't necessarily like certain astrology types because they're predictive. So being mindful, even like astro travel, like you go and look at it and you're like, oh man, this is like not the best place for me to go, and then it influences your decisions. But maybe that is the place for you to go. You had a reason why you were going to go there. You put in all this time, effort, and stuff, and then all of a sudden you read this chart and it scares you and you don't go. So be mindful of that, because just because it says something that's scary or uncomfortable or maybe not the most exciting doesn't mean that you don't need or want that experience in your life. A little bit of poison or a little bit of a challenge sometimes is what you need in order to get where you want to go. And we were talking about this actually uh, before Astro Monday that happened yesterday, and it was the Declaration of Independence, which was written with intentions, and they had written all these different things that they wanted people to have. And when you write that type of intention but people don't understand why they were written that way, it takes time for everybody to come to that neutral understanding. It's like you're writing these core values, what's important to you, and you're thinking about all these scenarios and what are the things that could happen, and then you write it in stone, but then the people after you don't understand why you put them there. So and on top of that, it's like you can say that you want to be a professional athlete, but you still need to go through all of the hoops and challenges in order to actually become one. So just writing the intention will bring the experiences necessary for you to actually achieve that intention. And the journey along the way isn't always comfortable. And that's what the United States is going through right now. Is they wrote the Declaration of Independence, they wrote all these commandments, and over the last, you know, few centuries, it's like people are going through the experiences to actually understand why they were written. So not always comfortable, but it's fundamental. Core values is something that we go into quite a bit when you go into our programs, especially the lifestyle artist programs and the coaching programs. And the reason, like, what is a core value? A core value is something that you measure that's important to you, that you strive to always do. And it's like a compass to behavior. You all have a core value that you may or may not be aware of. For example, you might value fairness, and you may measure people on how fair they're being constantly. Well, that could be one of your core values. Or you may measure honesty. And when someone's not honest, then that changes the way that you perceive them, or it brings up emotions for you, or it hits a hard boundary. So understanding what's valuable to you is really important, because this comes up a lot in relationships, where I might do something for you that expresses my love for you, but you're not measuring what I'm doing as something that's meaningful to you. Like, for example, if I make you breakfast in the morning in bed and I bring it up for you, and that's my way of showing and expressing love, but they don't, that's not important to them. Like, maybe they don't like breakfast, or maybe they don't like having breakfast that early, or maybe they don't value uh, acts of service. Then at when we get into an uncomfortable situation in the future, it's like, but I do all these things, and it's like, but you don't do the things that are actually important to me. You don't actually do the things that I value. And that's where a lot of relationships come to head, because the values are different, or the way that they're measuring each other is different. And it's important to share those values. And this is where, like, I've thought about when people get married, they do their vows, but they do them separately. And it's like, okay, you write yours, you write yours. Let's put like, some people put a lot of thought into it. Some people put no thought into it. Some people just copy what other people have done. But I feel like you should be writing those together, because that's like writing in stone the way that you want to interact in your relationship. When an argument comes up, I promise that we will work it out, that we will not go to bed angry. Perfect. Okay, that's one of the ways that we're going to act. That's one of the ways that we're going to work together to maintain a healthy relationship. And we both agree upon that. So it's like writing a contract together, not separately, and then sharing it with each other. That makes no sense. Because what if you don't agree on something? Or what if it's completely different? What if one person doesn't even see the value in doing that up front? It should be something that you do together. So what are the things that are important to you? You know, I vow to, you know, have a date night once a week with you. Okay, great. Let's do that together. We both value quality time. We both value spending that time together. We both value having that sacred space. Well, let's put that down in writing as we move into our relationship with each other. But if you do it separately, you're on two different pages. It just doesn't make sense. And you don't, and they change over time too. Like what's valuable to you today might not be valuable to you tomorrow. And if you don't reestablish those values or those vows, then you're not really setting yourself up for success in your relationship, because you do change. Things change, circumstances change, your priorities change. Your priority might be work, and then it may change to your relationship, and then it may change to your kids. And that's going to change the entire relationship that you have with that person. And every time you have a significant change in your relationship with a group of people, the negotiation or the vows or the values or the contracts that you created together should adapt accordingly. And the only way to do that is to sit down and say, okay, look, things have changed. This is what we had previously talked about, and this is what we had previously said, but this is how I feel today. Can we talk about it? Can we adapt it to where we're at now, rather than trying to function on outdated values and measurement sticks and priorities? We're now functioning on something that's in the present moment. And that is what I believe makes us successful. It's okay that it's a lot of the time we don't want to talk about the fact that we've changed, or we don't want to talk about the fact that things have changed. And so we just don't have the conversation, or we don't adapt our values and our needs to the present moment. And we constantly operate from the past. And that's not setting us up for success. So in the comments, let me know, what are your top 3 core values? Like, what is important to you? What do you measure when you meet someone? Astro.com. What do you measure? Do you measure if they're honest? Do you measure if they're kind? Do you measure if they're compassionate? Do you measure if they, you know, if they're disciplined, if they're hardworking, if they're on time? Do you measure if they respect others? You know, one of the big ones that like for me, that I can't stand is if people don't treat other people kindly, like a service. You know, if someone's waiting on you, or taking your order, and I see someone rude to them, that is like, for me, I don't like that. That that crosses my boundaries. Honesty, empathy, and respect, kindness. So, and then the question is, can you actually measure the values that you're writing? Like, how do you measure, how would you measure, let's see, vibe and tone? How do you measure that? Like, I can measure, well, we may have a value like honesty, but how do you measure honesty? Is it transparency, or is it honesty, or is it both? Because honesty is, I'm telling you the truth. Transparency is, I'm telling you, I'm basically sharing everything. So they're two different things, but we have to make sure that if we come and agree upon a value, that we're measuring it the same. Otherwise, or the definition of it is very clear. And is it honesty in real time, or is there no time frame? Because I might tell you something 6 months later, so I was being honest. But technically, is that really being honest? Because it took me 6 months to tell you. Well, I had to work through all the emotions, and it took me time. I had to process it. I had to think about it. So these are the things to think about when you're measuring it. When you're defining what your values are, you want to make sure that it's clear on how it's being measured as a collective. What are the things that are important to you? And you may not get them all, and you don't want to have too many either. Some you just do naturally, and there's no point in even putting it on there. The ones that you really, that I feel need to be put down are the ones that maybe you're striving towards. Like you can have your back pocket, the ones that you do innately that are important to you so that you're aware of them. But the ones that, like, if you're really bad at listening, then make that one of your core values that you focus on for the next 6 months. And every time you're not listening, people can remind you about it. And the more people that know your values around you, the more that they can help you, because they can say, well, you're not listening, you're doing it again. And it's a coaching stick, because you've given them permission to tell you that you're not living up to the things that you want to do. People can say anything, action is everything. Okay, so walk your talk, really. You know, and it's funny because there's a lot of things that I measure that I'm not aware that I measure until I realize a good way to find out which ones, or what are the things that people do or that happen, the things that happen around you that draw up a lot of emotions for you. And if you dive into those uncomfortable moments, you'll find the gold nuggets. Like this came up the other day, fairness. I value fairness. When things aren't fair, I feel it. I feel it emotionally, and it impacts the way that I behave. So that's not actually on my list of values that I've collectively written with the people around me, but it is something that I do appreciate. And when things aren't fair, then I'm frustrated or I'm angry or whatever, right? And so that's something that I can work on. Is I may value fairness, but do I need to react the way that I do when someone's not being fair? Because now that when that boundary is crossed, my emotions are triggered. Anywhere you set the boundary is an opportunity for your emotions to go for a swing. Because boundaries are enforced through emotion. Either you're uncomfortable, or you meet it with force, or you communicate your boundaries, or you get uncomfortable. So if you have no boundaries, then life's pretty easy because nothing can bother you. But if you have a boundary and that boundary gets crossed, do emotions come up? And what emotions do come up? And how fast do you get to the point where it's actually a dangerous emotion to you? Because if you get really angry because of something, you can use that anger in a positive way, or you can use it to be very destructive. And how much are you going to go straight to level 10 angry if somebody is late? Or is it the sixth time that they've done it? Or do you just get a little frustrated? So what you do after your value is crossed, or after your boundary is crossed, is important, because that boundary dictates your emotional roller coaster that you go on every single day. Frustration happens when I don't speak up. Well, I mean, you get frustrated, and then speaking up, are you talking about getting frustrated at yourself? Because absolutely. It's funny. Watch and feel your body when something uncomfortable happens that you want to express yourself. Feel where the energy goes. It's so prominent, even for people who aren't emotionally sensitive will feel this, because it's so intense. When you stuff down an emotion and you push it and you suppress it, you can literally feel it build and build and build and build and build, and it wants to come out and it gets stuck. And usually it gets stuck in the throat for people. So what's funny is when I was younger, I had my boundary crossed. These kids were making fun of me. I think I was like maybe 11 or 12 and we were playing a sport. And at that age, when I was losing something, losing was never an option for me at that age. And I would do anything physically possible that I could do to win. I wouldn't cheat, but I would do anything physically. Like I would work harder, I would run faster, I would sweat more, I would whatever. Like whatever I had to do in order to win, I would do it. I was extremely competitive. And these guys were making fun of me, and they were older than me while I was losing. And that, first off, I'm losing and I'm extremely competitive, so I was angry. And I was working hard to win. And then they're making fun of me, and it tipped me over an edge. And I actually had lost control of myself. And I used that anger, and I got in a fight with a few of them, and I ran home crying afterwards. And from that day onwards, I realized what my emotions were capable of. And my emotions were capable of hurting others. And that was a place that I never wanted to go to again. So what I did is I learned from that moment onwards to not allow myself to get to that level of anger or frustration such that it hurts others. And that became a value of mine which was to maintain control of my emotions so that it didn't hurt others or not hurting others. I don't know what you would call that value, but I tied that event to my level of competitiveness. So from that moment onwards, I knew that one of the ways that I got there was I was losing and I was extremely competitive. And then two, people were poking me emotionally. And the two of those combined created an event where I decreased my level of competitiveness from that age onwards. So I never allowed myself, whenever I was losing, I didn't allow my inner competitiveness to surface and push me to force myself to win. I suppressed even my competitive nature, and that was a pivotal point in my life because the level of competitiveness and determination that I had growing up, if I couldn't do something, I would do it for 8 hours straight until I did it. And if I still did it, I still couldn't do it after 8 hours. I would cry, I would get all frustrated, and then I would try again for another 3 hours. And it was to a level that was insane. So these little moments that happen when we're younger that seem so small can change the way that you interact with the world moving forward. And maybe that was a healthy thing because that level of competitiveness allowed me to get out of control of my emotions and then to hurt others. So it went to a point where I learned to suppress my emotions. It taught me to push them down. It taught me to not only push them down, but to manage and control them so that I could use them strategically rather than hurt others. And that led to me not expressing the frustrations that I had to people openly, which had a whole whack of issues with that. So it's funny how these little moments when you're younger can seem meaningless or small at the time, but ripple into your life at some point. So the question is, what moments have you had in your life that were pivotal that have taught you something about yourself or you changed your behavior and it innately changed who you were? It suppressed who you were. I had a conversation with somebody when we were in Costa Rica, and it was about them suppressing themselves or holding back. And it was a conversation about belonging and being around the people that they wanted to be around, but they didn't feel like they could be themselves with the people that they were around. And the conversation really went down the path of, if I'm shining a light in a dark room, anybody who resonates with that light will find it. anybody who doesn't want to go towards the light will go away from it. And the brighter that I shine that light, the faster and easier people will be able to find me that want to be around that light. And I use that example in the sense that if I am 100% myself, in my most authentic version of myself, I will shine brightest. And the brighter that I shine, the more likely I am to attract the people that are like me. And for me, I like to be around people who vibe or who are very similar in a way. They have similar values, they want similar things. That's just the way that I operate. Some people want to be around people that are different. I want to be around people that are similar, obviously with their uniqueness, but I like the similarity around me. And the brighter that I shine, the easier it is for more of those people to find me. If I dim myself to fit in, then I won't find the people who really want to find me. That's one of the things is like, if the people around you no longer align with who you are and you're putting on a face, then are you going to be able to live with yourself in 3 years or 5 years or 10 years with not being who you truly are? We're coming out of that era where we had to pretend and put on a face and pretend like we're someone that we're not. And we're going into that space where you actually get to be who you truly are. And that's an exciting time for me, because if you get to be who you truly are and everybody around you accepts you for that, then you're going to be able to live with yourself. You're going to be able to be your own best friend. I had this thought maybe about 3.5 years ago, which was the person that I was at the time was a combination of my upbringing, my programming, and who I was at the core. And the combination of that meant that I had maybe 70% of who I showed the world was me. And 10% was maybe my family. And then maybe 10% was my school programming. And then 10% was the world programming. So I had this soup of a personality, and only 70% of it was me. Now, if you hung out with me every single day, but you only saw that 70%, do you really know me? Or how about if I only show 70% of who I truly am and I see you for 3 hours a week? Do you really know me? You only know a percentage of 70% of me. So you don't really know me. And if you don't really know me, then if you actually knew me, would we still be together? Would we still be friends? Would we still be in a relationship? Would we still hang out? I don't know. But the more you are of you, the more like you're going to reflect and attract people in the outside world that are more like you, and you will have better relationships with the people around you. So I feel like it's important for human beings to authentically attract their reflections around them in the people. And then if they want to, you can go into an environment that's completely unfamiliar, like a mall or a homeless shelter or another country where they speak another language, and you can have those experiences where the reflections are different. But it's important to have certain reflections around you that show you who you really are. Everybody who's in your life right now that you judge for something that they do, I want you to take a look at yourself and ask, where do I do that? Because every time I've been frustrated or I've judged someone, even today, in the world that I live in today, with the people around me today, when I judge them or I look at them for a specific behavior that they have, I always come back to, I do the same thing, but I do it differently. I express it in a different area of my life, or I express it slightly differently, but I still do it. And that's why whenever you have one finger pointing at others, you have three fingers pointing back at you, because even though you're pointing at them, they're a reflection of you. So somewhere deep inside, you're also doing it. It's always a clue. It's a clue. When you are frustrated at somebody for doing something. They are a reflection of you. So where do you do it? And then once you find out where you do it, you can change it. Because if you were judging them and you didn't like it, then, and you're doing it, then why are you doing it? If your mom put you down with a little things, what should I do so it's not affecting me? What do you mean she puts you down with little things? You know, if someone puts you down, then the question is, do you put yourself down? Do you put down animals? You know, do you make fun of animals? Do you not accept them? Is it like it shows up differently? It doesn't show up necessarily in the same way. Maybe you put yourself down. Okay, great. That's a reflection of how I talk to myself inside my head. If they put if a human being puts me down and I put animals down by hurting them or making fun of them or not accepting them, then I'm also doing it. I just do it in a different area of my life. It doesn't always necessarily show up in the same way. Negative comments. Yeah, negative comments. So how do you, if you're not negatively, if you don't do the same thing to other human beings, then where do you do it? Do you put yourself down in your own head? How you talk to yourself is how the world will talk to you. It's funny, I do this game all the time where I'll go, okay, good job, Jason. You're doing so great. And like a week later, people will be saying that exact phrase to me. And it actually less than a week. Like I've had it happen instantly. Like one week when I first started doing that as an experiment, I did it for like 3 days straight. And within the second day, I had some of the best compliments that I ever received from people because I was talking to myself out loud, complimenting myself out loud. And then the outside world started to reflect that back to me. Now, I believe because I said it out loud, I reinforced it. Because when it's in your head, I feel like that's one level of potential in manifesting. Once you speak it out loud, you solidify that. When you use your name and you're talking to yourself, that's an extra punch. And there's experiments about this. Like, I mean, they constantly say that it's not true, but there's, you know, if you speak to water, it changes structure. And if you vibrate, okay, when you speak, you're creating a vibration. And that vibration changes the structure of plants, changes the structure of water, of sand, where it actually takes on a shape. And you can even lift objects with sound. Your voice produces a sound. So sound and the voice is very powerful and it's misused a lot of the time. And I hear people all the time saying negative things out loud to themselves. And that to me is a boundary. Like I value the power of a voice and I value the words that come out of your mouth. So if you say something that I don't align with, then that is actually a boundary of mine or a value of mine. Throat of God. Yeah, I guess you could say that. Hi, Maria. So exercise for the week is to, and I've given this exercise before, but speak to yourself. You know, walk around your house, talk to yourself. I literally, if you're around me, you'll hear me sing random songs, and I'll change the lyrics, and the lyrics will be something that I want. Like this morning, I was singing "Be the change you wish to see in the world." Why not? And then everybody else in the house is singing it, and it's silly, but it's a positive thing to be saying over and over again. Okay. Wonder if we can find the rice experiment is a really good example. Let me show you a picture. If you've never heard of the rice experiment, I actually there's a lot of people who debunk it, but what's funny is I've had people in the human garage community who've tried it and it worked. So for those of you who don't know what the rice experiment is, the rice experiment is an experiment where you cook a batch of rice and you get 3 mason jars and you put all you separate the rice into 3 mason jars and you put a label on it like love, hate, and then normal. And the normal one you don't touch. That's the control of your experiment. Then the hate one is you speak and say negative words to it with intentions. And then the positive one, or the love one, you speak positive words to. And the end result of it is, let's see if we can find a photo before and after. You can type this in Google. I mean, people say that they debunk it all the time. You know what? Instead of listening to them, why don't you go and do it yourself and see what you get? Ah, here's a good photo. So I want to make it big. Okay. So this is the same batch of rice over a 30-day period is usually what they do. So they cook this, all this rice was cooked at the same time. And the one on the love one, they said loving words to. The middle one, they said nothing. And then the hate one, they spoke mean words to. And over time, you can see naturally rice is going to develop mold. It actually starts developing mold within 24 hours. That's why you don't want to eat leftover rice. The hate one is like dark and really gross. And then the love one still looks good. So this is an awesome experiment, and there's a lot of people on the internet who try to debunk it, and I'm like, okay, well, try it for yourself and see if it works for you. And if it doesn't work for you, then did you believe in the experiment before you did it? How you choose to view the experiment before you do it also impacts the experiment. That's quantum physics. So try the experiment if you want to and see what happens. Take photos, document it, and share it with us. I think it's an awesome way to show you the power of the word, the power of your voice, the power of positive thinking. And when I listen to people talk and the words that they choose to use when they're talking, their body looks like this. So there's obviously a correlation between the two. My last name is Dutch, yes. You feel heavy after eating rice. So I'm trying to have a better relationship with my sister who lives across the street from me. She was always putting me down. We look after our mother, mostly me. She's crossing my boundaries. Okay, so your boundary is one thing. So your boundary in this case is the level of respect that you have for yourself, right? If somebody wants to say something negative to me and I have a boundary that I don't speak to myself like that, then I'm not going to let someone else speak to me like that. So there's my boundary. How do I enforce that boundary? When I speak to myself like that, do I say something to myself? Hey, don't talk to yourself like that. When this person says something to me that crosses that boundary, how do you interact? Usually, if you let them do it the first time, they're going to do it again. So boundaries are very interesting. Like I learned this with dogs when we rescued a few dogs in Mexico. If you let them cross a line on your property, like let's say from one side of the property to another, or from inside to outside, if you let them cross that line the first time, they will constantly do it. And you have to reinforce it and tell them and tell them and tell them. And there's all these methods that you can use to then establish the boundary after the fact, but it's way more work. But if it's the first time and you just met them and they come in and you enforce that boundary right away, you tell them, nope, you do not cross this line. Sometimes they'll try and test it, but they don't cross it. And they don't understand why they can't, but they don't do it. But if they've done it once, then you have to retrain them to stop doing it. And human beings are the same. If they don't know that that's your boundary, they're going to constantly cross your boundary. So it's up to you. How much do you respect yourself? If you respect yourself enough, you will express your boundaries. You have to let the people know around you how you operate. Everybody operates differently. You're all from different cultures. We all have different values. We all have different backgrounds. We all have different experiences. You are responsible for letting the people around you, letting your teammates around you, letting your family around you, letting your friends around you know who you are and how you operate and how you will be treated. And if they choose to constantly go against that willingly, that's a different conversation. But a lot of the time, it's unconscious. A lot of the time, it's a behavior pattern that they have that they execute habitually, automated. And sorry, I got distracted. Somebody mentioned me in a story on Human Garage. So a lot of the time, people cross your boundaries, but they don't know that they're crossing it. And if you're frustrated that they crossed your boundary, but they don't know that that was your boundary and they did it unconsciously, now you're the problem because you didn't tell them. But if you tell them, most good people are going to say, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I didn't realize I was doing that. I didn't realize that I crossed your boundary. I didn't like whatever it might be. Everybody has different boundaries, and you are responsible for letting the world know what they are. And when they are crossed, you are responsible for expressing that and letting them know and guiding them and coaching them. And by the way, when you tell somebody what your boundary is, they might have 40 years of doing that thing ingrained into their system. And if you come into their life and all of a sudden you tell them that's a boundary, well, you can't, it's tough to teach a new dog or an old dog new tricks. So you have to give them the time and the patience and compassion while they learn your boundary. As long as they, with intention, respect and try to adapt to your boundary, that's okay. But if they constantly cross it and have no intention of changing, then now they have crossed another one, which is the level of respect that they have towards you. Because now they're ignoring you and consciously crossing your boundary and disrespecting you. That's different. That's a whole nother boundary. And that one is met with more force from me than something else that they're doing unconsciously. Like, for example, if you move into my house and you become my roommate, and let's say, just as an example, dishes, always an easy one. My boundary, if you live with me, clean up after yourself. Okay, great. Well, maybe somebody's lived for 60 years and they've never done that. They've always had a maid and they don't know how to clean up after themselves. So they move in and they keep bonking their head. They keep leaving the dish out. Like they just don't know what to do. Okay, great. Hey, at this house, if you want to live here, this is how we do it. You have to clean up after yourself. Okay, great. And then they mess up again, and then they mess up again, and then they mess up again. And I keep telling them, keep telling them, keep telling them, keep telling them. And they're like, I'm so sorry, I just forgot. Like I'm trying, I did it yesterday, but I forgot today. Okay, great. So they're progressing and they're getting better over time, and they're respecting the fact that I have a boundary. Versus they keep doing it, and I haven't even seen them try once. And they constantly keep doing it, and now we're like 6 months later, and they haven't even tried at all. Now they're crossing another boundary of mine. So now you've crossed two boundaries. One, the cleanliness and the boundary of like clean up after yourself. That's a value. I want you to, I want a clean and organized space. You've crossed boundary number one. Boundary number two is you've now crossed the level of respect and willingness to work together as a team. So these are things to keep in mind. You are responsible for coaching others in your boundaries and setting those boundaries and enforcing those boundaries while giving people the time and space to learn them, because not everybody will understand them or get them right away. So thank you, everybody. Denise is going to hop on next, and she's going to give you guys a nice class to reduce stress in your bodies, so you can join her. And then we've got Gary hopping on afterwards. He's going to do some breath work with Breath Messiah and some other Ask Gary questions. So I hope you enjoy the rest of the day of Human Garage content. Get into our programs if you're ready to reset your life, and I'll see you on Thursday.